Welcome back, landlords of Ontario, to another episode of Cressy's Ontario Landlord Series podcast, where we are here to educate, inform, make sure that all of you landlords out there are understanding obligations, understanding rights, understanding what's going on in the world around us, which brings us to our episode and topic today. I don't know if any of you are familiar or if you've heard or know what's happened recently. This is one of our episodes that's not going to be something that's evergreen. It's about what's going on right now. But in theory, we should always know what's happening in the political world surrounding the landlord and tenant um, situation. So, Bill 10, have you heard of it? I have. I've spoken to my friend Kayla Andre, who's here with us to talk today about this so that everybody understands what's going on with this, what's changing. Okay, sadly, we're not talking about if we can help stop this bill anymore. It is going through, it is happening here in Ontario. So it's more just about why did this happen? How can we maybe stop things like this happening in the future? And how can we be more up to date and involved with what's going on all levels of government, federal, municipal, provincial. We're looking at more of the provincial stuff here on this podcast, but we do always break it down and we can get into the municipal stuff as well. So, without further ado, Miss Kayla Andre from Ontario Landlord Watch and a spokesperson for Front Lobby. Welcome. Thanks for joining us again. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me back. It's unfortunate we're coming back so quickly regarding Bill 10. This is something that I think a lot of landlords are slowly going to find out about. This bill had came out on May 1st, and before the end of the month was done, this bill is already into the royal assent stage, which means that this is a bill that's going to be pushed through. Now, people are probably wondering, like, what is Bill 10? And normally, when you first look at it, like, yeah, like it should be fine. And yes, every landlord, property manager in the province of Ontario should be careful on who they're renting to and make sure that the tenants are not doing any type of illegal acts. What those illegal acts will be either, drug dealing, cooking drugs, what about sex trafficking? There is going to be a lot of these criminal activities that tenants can do. But now with Bill 10 in the play, they're going to be asking the landlords to be held responsible of some sort, which could result into the landlords being fined. It could result in them closing the property, confiscating the property. And this is where, landlords are looking at this bill, and it states reasonable steps. Now, what is that reasonable steps? The definition is not there within the bill. So we are, communicating with the Attorney General's office through our submissions, asking, like, what is that fine detail of reasonable steps? Is this just doing our normal inspections of the rental property? But you and I both know that this is a step of 24-hour written notice that we're giving tenants, in which they now have 24 hours to hide whatever they want to hide. Now, if there's a situation where the police come in or SWAT comes in and they're like, this is clearly like a drug operation, how are they determined that the landlords are going to be held responsible? And what would happen to the landlords if the tenants do have, a drug den happening in their property, and the police come and shut it down? We can't rent it. The tenants are almost, even when tenants go to jail, we're still responsible for giving them still access to their rental unit. So coming down to just the headlining of Section 8 and Bill 10, it's just very disheartening to see that we have our conservative government, the only ones that we had hope for, looking for the small landlords, that business mindset, being protective. But unfortunately, Doug Downey decided to dig his heels in and create a bill to make it look like he's doing something for the community, because everyone knows that crime is on the rise, the drugs are on the rise. And again, they just want to point the finger at the private landlords and try to hold us accountable, or they want us to be the big brother or the police or the cameras. Like, how many landlords are going to be, very paranoid about this now, and they're going to give a lot of harassing treatment towards their tenants because they're nervous of the police going after them and finding them or confiscating their properties.
It's the thing that I don't like, well, there's lots of things that I don't like about this, but one of those main things is the gray area, the unknown. How are we even supposed to know how we're going to, again, these critical steps, get from one to two
Yeah.
with 24 hours notice? I can hide an elephant in 24 hours, you know?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. How are we supposed to be responsible? Like, when we were talking about this A couple weeks ago, last week, whenever that was, when we were discussing this, um, I mentioned to you about an appraisal that I can't get done, where a mortgage appraisal to go inside that property where they're denying entrance, just to get my client to refinance and to do something with that property, let alone know exactly what's going on inside that property 24/7. I can't even get in for that. It's I just don't understand how they can hold us responsible.
I have a landlord trying to kick out their tenant for 5 years. They got three eviction orders from the landlord and tenant board, but unfortunately, this tenant is now being protected by the Waterloo Regional Community Services, who have appealed their landlord and tenant board eviction orders based on Section 78 is what they got the eviction for non-payment, but they're going back to court in June for all of the illegal activities that are happening. So it's okay, if you want to make us responsible for this, because again, I don't want drugs in the community, I don't want criminal activity in my community, but give me the proper tools that I need in order to address it. Right now you've given me a broken kangaroo court system of the landlord and tenant board, in which Doug Downey is the person to oversee what happens there, and he's now a part of this bill. Telling me to do one thing, but you're not giving me the tools to actually do it. So the work is not going to get done. And how many properties are going to be confiscated in the meantime?
It's pointing the finger, it's plain blame, or saying, "Here, we're gonna shift this into your responsibility instead of us."
Yep.
Uh,
They want to make it look good. It's smoke and mirrors, right? Like we have a lot of criminal activity that's happening, and half of the times, these people are like making some money. They're going to buy a house. They're not going to really quite do it in the rental units per se, but so there's a little bit of a feel to that. But hey, the people get into the drug trade, starting off small and getting into the big stuff. But we have a situation where government is always continuing to pass down their responsibilities to a private citizen, a private housing provider. And this is why, our landlords, we need to be a part of the Ontario Landlords Watch group, making sure you're getting all the notifications, because this bill came very quickly and it was already done technically by the end of the month. I've never seen something done so quickly. I haven't seen it implement it to a point where they weren't even, asking for the consultation of the stakeholders that are involved. I've done whatever I could based on, informing our members and writing letters to the attorney generals and writing into, the minister of housing, because all of them play a very strong factor into how the housing communities and the industry is being ran. And then they wonder why they have landlords running out the door when they create policies like this. And that's not even half of what we have to worry about. We also have other provincial rules and regulations. And then we also have municipal government that, it's hard to keep up with, but we're trying to keep up. So if you're listening and you know something that's going on in your municipality or in the province, like please, come into the group or send me a direct message. Like, please keep me informed, because our community is what we make it today, and making sure that we're there for each other.
yeah, this community of landlords, of the landlord advocates, there's a few of us out there now that are building and growing, but I think power is in numbers, and if we can all come together and understanding everything, supporting one another, we can only make this better for all of us, right? Um,
I want to go on strike. How do we go on strike? Like, I want to go on strike like the post office. I want to go on strike. Like, do we go on strike and say we're not doing any type of maintenance concern, like that the tenants bring to us? Like, but then property standards come in. Like, where do we have our rights? What union is going to represent us? So we have to make sure that we're advocates of our own means. And when some of these landlords are ready, they're taking off. Like, they're going into Alberta, they're going to Texas and Florida and Costa Rica and Dominican and Mexico. They're even wanting to take their chances in Mexico. So we have to really ask ourselves and ask our elected officials, like, when the landlords are pushed out of this industry, and yes, they may be selling to a developer, or they may sell to someone who is buying that rental unit and putting their own family members in there. They may not be renting it to their the people of the community. Like, what happens? Like, how much pressure is going to be on the taxpayers in order to keep building, managing, maintaining, and subsidizing government housing, when your partner is now saying, like, you stretch me thin, my friend.
they don't build many purpose-built rentals anymore, right? It's all become a thing on us. There is actually now the government has done some things to incentivize developers and builders to build more affordable rentals and pure rental buildings instead of just condos and stuff. But I also think on that point, what a lot of the general public doesn't realize is when Kathleen Wynne, another politician, back in 2017 was when she talked about affordable housing for the first time. We're now in 2025. The first project that came through her program started accepting tenant applications in the fall of 2024. Like, that's how long it takes, folks, to go through things. You have to still go through the city's permits, planning, zoning, and everything like that to actually get to the point, no matter how many incentives that the government's going to give the big corporations to build those, because there's nobody and watching this YouTube show probably that can afford to build out a multiple $1 million apartment building, right? We are all the small landlords, ones that are looking after and taking care of single family to small multifamily, right? Those big corps, they can build those things. They're getting all the rebates, all the kickbacks, and we have to look out for ourselves. And the government has to do the same. They have to realize that we are needed in this world, or the money will go elsewhere, whether that's out of country, out of province. And as Kayla said, it is definitely already started. People are taking their investment dollars and going elsewhere because real estate is the best investment in the world. The problem is right now, people are scared about what's happening, especially in the province of Ontario, and they don't want to stay here right now as it becomes even more and more unbalanced, and in the favor of the tenant.
No, that's exactly what it is. Like you have the people like myself, very, frugal with, when I bought my properties, what is cash flowing. Like I'll stay based on what I have. Am I going to buy more? No. Am I going to buy elsewhere? Yes. But let's put this into context of I'm working on this article right now regarding the type of crime level that's happening in Toronto community housing and doing some research, finding out that 40% of the crime that has happened in the city of Toronto actually happened on or near Toronto community housing. What they complain about and what their issues are, from bed bugs to cockroaches to roofs and elevators. Like we have Toronto Safe TO program that really comes down hard on the private investors, but are they coming down hard onto Toronto community housing? How many buildings in Toronto have been boarded up because they just don't have the funds to even maintain their properties? And out west, they started to liquidate some of their properties because they don't have the money to maintain it. So, and our nonprofits, they're struggling. They're struggling to find land. They're struggling to do any type of building. This is the type of mess that we have. And then our Ford government, for some whatever reason, thinks that everyone in their mother can be a homeowner. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, they got to have credit. They have to have a good job. They have to have down payment. Like, this is not as easy as they think it's going to be. But it's almost like calling the kettle black. Like you're sitting there pointing the finger at the private investors, but in reality, they made a mockery and a mess of just how community housing has been ran for so many years that it's become a cesspool of problems because they're not properly managing it. And I find that our small landlords, they do a good job managing it. They vet their tenants properly. They are on top of each and every issue that comes to them. Why is the private sector always getting penalized and punished through every single level of government, introducing these type of policies?
Because it's the easiest way to point the finger at us. It's the easiest thing for the government to deflect. You know, look at how many professional hockey teams are firing their coach right now because their players didn't do what was needed to be done. Right? It's easy to defer to somebody else. Hey, it wasn't this group; it was this one guy. Let's get rid of him and bring in somebody new.
Yeah.
They are. Anyways, you're right.
You
The
know
pond is
what?
definitely calling the kettle black here.
And you know what? You got to call it out like it is, right? Like I'm on Instagram. I'm on Olivia Chow's post, so please go over there, check out what's going on. Where she's going around to different properties with Acorn, a tenant association, initially agreeing with me that yes, these are these issues that people are dealing with in Toronto community housing. But I said that government can't afford to keep building, managing, maintaining, and subsidizing these type of properties. They didn't agree to that. But again, we're all taxed out. Like, look at our healthcare system. Look at our roads. Look at everything that we need in society, and it's all suffering. So, to say that the need for more government housing is going to be be the answer. It's not. Just like, this recent article came into my local paper wanting more government housing. And it's like, no, like you need to have multiple different levels of it, but it's the processes that are broken in between, even the private sector to nonprofit and government. Like they need to bring the proper stakeholders together. And it's not just about the salaries that they're giving, nonprofit organizations. Like let's put that into the people if we just properly manage it. So a lot of the crazy things have been happening, and it's hard to keep up with what's happening from stories that our landlords are coming out with. But our landlords, like if you're going to be staying in this industry, not only do you got to get yourself educated, which you got to make sure that you're at this event that's coming up on June 26th for the Investor Summit, where everyone is going to be and connecting with that community. But you have to be very involved. I want you to do me a favor, please. I want you to add the Attorney General, add the Minister of Housing, his associate to the Minister of Housing. Google, it's a quick Google. Follow them on all their social media accounts so that you're being in the know of what's happening. Because if we don't, I can only imagine what would happen if we had a liberal NDP government.
Well, I think that is it right there. It is be in the know. You guys got to understand the communities that are out there to guide, advise, support you. And Kayla just dropped a little something there. There is an event called the Investor Summit coming up June 26th. It's right around the corner. There'll be others, but they're in-person events. So check out investorsummit.ca. There is information about that out there. There's ways to get promo codes. You can reach out to us at Cressy 40. So Cressy in capital letters, CRESI 40 spelled out in capital letters. That'll get you your discount code there. And yeah, it's about getting all of us landlords back together, networking, being in the know, supporting, and having everybody there as one team. And again, follow Ontario Landlord Watch as a great place to be connected on the Facebook group there as well. Caleb, do you have anything else that you want to leave our audience with today?
Yes, Kevin, thanks for asking. It's not too many podcasts that I get to talk about this. But based on the Landlord and Tenant Board, what's happening there, based on what's happening with Bill 10, and understanding that, the government has been switching out our ministers of housing for such a many years. I've been watching new ministers of housing come in, but the one thing that hasn't changed is the Attorney General, Doug Downey. So there is a petition. So you can jump onto Kayla Andrade's Facebook page, over to Ontario Landlords Watch, or even send me a direct message. I'll send you the petition that I've created, calling for the resignation of Doug Downey. I think that I'm not too sure if his vision has aligned to providing quick, timely access to justice as any more than to potentially be stockpiling the landlord and tenant board with more adjudicators or providing more paralegals and lawyers more of a job to be able to represent the poor landlords that are getting stuck within this broken system. But I want change. So if you guys believe in what I'm telling you right now, you can sign that petition. So just reach out and we'll make sure that you have access to that petition to ask for his resignation.
As always, thanks so much for listening and being a part of our group here. That petition, there'll be a link, I'm sure, throughout this. If not, Ontario Landlord Watch or Kayla Andrade's Facebook page, you can find her there. We'll get you that signed off. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Please remember, while we are professionals, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The advice shared may not apply to your unique situation. Always seek personalized advice from a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're finding it informative and useful, make sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend so that we can keep getting the information out there to Ontario landlords. And keep on joining us. We'll see you next time.